And unfortunately, there's three teams that were the playoff teams last year, and then there was that lowly fourth team. But there were steps forward in the right direction from last season, albeit very small steps. They looked little larger steps when Joe Burrow was healthy. The Cincinnati Bengals are still slotting in as the fourth team in this division. I think they're heading in the right direction. They had some weird offseason moves that we'll talk about, obviously, as we get into these position groups and break it down. And, the question for this season is, what's the next step for this franchise to get back to playoff football? And are people like Zach Taylor involved in that next step for this franchise? We're going to see a lot of those answers this season, I think. So Bengals slot in for me at number 4. This one felt like the obvious one of the AFC North. Jackson, go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of started off right there with Zach Taylor. That's probably maybe the biggest concern heading into this team is Zach Taylor was ranked our 32nd coach. I'm using my head coaching rankings, so he was 32nd, which means that's a -8 wins right there. So that's tough. But the bright side is for the Bengals, you have Joe Burrow, who's really good. He's going to go down as a tier 3 quarterback as of right now. That's where he got in the rankings, but I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him move up. So that's maybe, some of the way the system works is it's not necessarily just where are you, but do you have potential to move up or move down? So he's tier 3. So you don't necessarily have the best coach, but maybe Zach Taylor can figure something out. Who knows? And you have what looks to be a great quarterback.
Yeah. When it comes to Joe Burrow, would you be, I don't know if shock's the right word, but could you see him in a tier 2 or tier 1 after this season?
Well, tier 1 would be a big jump because, again, that's top 5 quarterback in the league. But I think tier 2 I could see. I think I really could. He has he looked awesome his rookie year, and you're kind of in the Ryan Tannehill-esque era there. I think it's possible.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I thought he did a great job of, showing his accuracy and ball placement, was something he did, at a fantastic level his last season at LSU. I thought he worked really well with these skill position guys, even though he got, next to nothing out of AJ Green. And so I thought he did a pretty good job given the circumstances of this team he's on and what he's been dealing with. The question is going to become, can Cincinnati keep him healthy with this offensive line?
Well, right. And, not just the offensive line, but obviously the system itself didn't exactly work perfectly with, a lot of empty backfields. He gets hit. And, in fairness, some of it is himself as well. He has to not do so many things where he's trying to juke out defensive linemen. Sometimes just throw the ball away or, go down so you're not getting hit in the awkward spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think every quarterback that takes a lot of sacks has to deal with, has to fix something within themselves too. But there's only so much you can also do with the bad offensive line, where I don't think this Bengals offensive line's atrocious. It's definitely not near the bottom of the league, but I don't think it's a good offensive line either. I would say it's probably below average.
Yeah, well, we'll just go right there then. So the offensive line is a tier 4 offensive line. I've graded it at as their tackles. You have Jonah Williams, who I like, but again, I would like to see a little bit more out of him. He has had injury concerns. You have Riley Reef, who's kind of been a consistent, maybe average starter type guy. Who I think it's not a horrible pickup. Again, he's above average, he's above replacement level. And then for guards, you have a few guys that are interesting. So Jackson Carman is their 2nd round pick. You also have Xavier Su'a-Filo, Quentin Spain, and Michael Jordan. Amazing Michael Jordan coming out of retirement out of basketball and baseball to now try his offensive lineman career. So you have a 2nd round pick and guys who've kind of been replacement level since we've seen them there. So the guard is a bit of maybe the biggest question mark here. They also have Trey Hopkins at center. So it's a tier 4 offensive line.
Yeah, that feels appropriate. Like I said, I don't think it's bottom tier, and that's kind of where you had them too. You had them just above that, below the average level. Riley Reef is going to be interesting because I feel like he's kind of well, we couldn't really find anybody. At least we got Riley Reef. He's kind of like that benchmark where you wouldn't mind an upgrade, but you're also, you're getting a guy who has some experience and has been through the trenches kind of a little bit. So that'll be an interesting pickup. And he actually had a decent year last year, and can he keep that up is the question. He's just not a high-tier tackle in my book. So I think he's going to be important for that. And like you said, this interior offensive line, I think, has to take a step forward.
Yeah, and it always makes me laugh when a commentator accidentally calls him Riley Reed.
Yeah,
Mhm,
that is true.
classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on to the last wide receiver or last, I guess, two more offensive positions. First, we have wide receiver slash tight end. So this is the receiving group. You have Jamar Chase, who they just drafted, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. You also have Auden Tate, who I think could maybe be an okay three. And then for tight ends, Drew Sample, who's probably more of a blocking tight end, and then CJ Uzea, who's he's an all-around tight end, but he really hasn't we haven't seen much of him. Didn't even have 100 snaps last year. He's maybe a bit of a wild card. This is a tier 3 receiving core for me.
Yeah, that feels appropriate. T. Higgins had a fantastic year last year as a rookie. I think he ended up, let me pull it up here, 908 yards and 6 touchdowns. I thought he was very good. Tyler Boyd, I think, is very good, and I think he can take a big leap forward this year. And he's just going to, be helped by kind of taking over that first spot with A.J. Green kind of out of the lineup. And then obviously it was the Chase pick, who I think we both criticized the pick, but we believe in the talent of the receiver. So I do want to separate that. Like, I didn't agree with taking him in that pick because I think there was more receivers in end of round 1, round 2, round 3 that could be just as good potentially. But I still believe in the talent that Chase can be awesome, and he has a chance to be awesome in this team. So I think I'm interested to see what he does this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Chase is a very talented. I think it'll work well. We both had our concerns about the pick, but at the same time, I think we both were also like, he's a great receiver, and it should work out really well. One thing I noticed, sort of looking back and watching tape, is Burrow loves to make his receivers make these contested catches, which Chase is awesome at. His ability to make a tough catch is great, and that kind of that's why they have such a good chemistry together. So I think it could work out really well. And this is definitely another group that I could see getting into like a tier 2 or a tier 1. Maybe tier 1 could be tough, but I could easily see it being a tier 2 if Chase does turn into that number 1 receiver that we're hoping he will be. But he's a rookie, might take a minute, so I think tier 3 feels appropriate.
Wouldn't it be interesting? Like, couldn't this be kind of like CD Lamb's first year, where almost like Boyd and Higgins have the experience, so they're going to get some touches there, and then Chase just all of a sudden has this space because Boyd and Higgins are getting that sort of attention, and he just has a couple big games off of it.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see something like that happening. We'll also talk about halfbacks just to finish out the offense. You have Joe Mixon, who I like. I don't think he's a good halfback, I would say. You also have Samay Pinair, who only 209 snaps last year, and seems like more of just mostly a runner, but still that's an important factor in a halfback. They also got Puka Williams, who is someone I was high on, who didn't get drafted, but maybe there's some hope there. So it ends up being a tier 3 halfback crew as well. It was 13th, so it was only a couple spots away from tier 2. So that's where they're at, bringing their offense to 17th overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think their offense is definitely going to be interesting. I think this could be a fun group to watch. If the offensive line can just hold up a little bit, there's a lot of skill on this team. I like Mixon. Hopefully he's healthy this season. And then I believe, I know you don't watch college football, but I believe the name is Samaje Perine. We'll work on that. We'll get IT on that to find out the correct pronunciation. Okay. And then, your guy Puka Williams, I'm interested to see him on special teams. I know that's not really graded for offense, but I think that's kind of going to be his role this season, is to make some impact plays back there in the kicking game.
We have a super chat. Kruger, has anyone said that I are a sexy beast? Well, certainly not with that grammar. I don't believe so.
Yeah, that's true. Especially, you don't have your face in the picture, so we can't really judge if you're a sexy beast. So we'll see.
Right. Yes, exactly. All right. Going on to the defense now. And again, it's a little bit different because some of these things kind of overlap, but that's the way I've done it with the grading system. So we'll start off with the coverage. Coverage is what the analytics say is the most important thing. You want to cover well. That's what matters. And it makes sense as well. And their coverage is going to be a tier 3 coverage unit. They have Darius Phillips, Trey Waynes as their sort of 1 and 2 corners. And you also got Mike Hilton, these names are going to kill me. Chiode Awuzie, and Eli Apple, he's been a fine number 3 throughout the course of his career. Obviously hasn't lived up to the hype when he got drafted. For safeties, Jesse Bates, awesome, and Von Bell, who's very good. And on top of this, you have, for the linebacking crew, maybe we can get that into a second, but coverage unit, we'll stick with the secondary for now, 15th.
Yeah, so the hope is obviously Trey Wayne stays healthy because that was someone that they got as kind of like this could be an impact guy for our secondary and make some plays for them. Missed the entire season. And then, we talked about Jesse Bates last week. It was surprising he was the number one ranked free safety or number one ranked safety by Pro Football Focus. I think he's really talented. He can step up in the run and also defend the pass really well. He's, kind of the star of this group. And then, like you said, Von Bell's always kind of been solid. And this is a pretty good secondary group. I was surprised when I was looking at this how much I actually kind of like this group. The big thing is going to be, we saw what happened when Wayne's got hurt, that it struggled a little bit at times. Wayne's has to stay healthy and stay on the field. So if he's healthy this year, which he should be, then this is a pretty good group.
Yeah, especially when you consider they got rid of William Jackson and also K's Live. Another super chat. I'm loving the sweet mullet. Again, appreciate it. K's Live for that. I agree. So for their run defense, which is the next most important factor in here, you have DJ Reader, who's very good, was very good for the Texans. You also have Larry Ogunjobi, and then they have Mike Daniels, who I did not realize that they had Mike Daniels until right now, until preparing for this. And then Tyler Shelvin, who they drafted in the 4th round, who I was pretty high on. Also for their edge guys, and again, we'll talk about the edge a little bit more with pass rush, but they have Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, and Joseph Osai for their edge. So for the run defense, it's, I like DJ Reader. I'm not sure about everything else. I think Tyler Shelvin could be decent. They were, in terms of yards per carry last year, they were 2nd worst in the league. I am putting this as a bottom tier run defense for now.
Yeah, I understood what they were doing with giving Reader the big contract because it's kind of like this is going to be the main guy in our group, and I can see him being that and seeing him being that important piece for them. But like you said, I think somebody has to be able to show something to play alongside him, especially in this 4-3 system that they have. If they can show that they have one other guy that's kind of a run stuffing thing, I kind of like, some of the guys that they have around him that it could be a pretty decent defense. But until somebody else shows on that other defensive tackle spot that they can hang with Reader, I think that this run defense is kind of beatable.
Well, yeah, and especially with the linebacking core of you have Akeem Davis-Gaither, who was 4th rounder last year and played like it. You have Jermaine Pratt, who's not good in run defense, and then you have Logan Wilson, who's not good in run defense. So the linebacking core not being good in run defense, that's a key factor as well. And also for pass rush, I already mentioned the guys, but mostly Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. And honestly, the Trey Hendrickson deal, that's kind of like the exact contract I wouldn't want to give out if I'm a GM. Like, you're paying for not really that much of an impact. Their pass rush is tier 4, but in pass rush, tier 4 still doesn't get you anything. You need to be at least tier 3 to get wins according to the system. So it's not the worst in the league, but it's still. And then Joseph Asai in the 3rd round. We'll see how he pans out, but I wasn't too high on him either. So that's their pass rush.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Osai is an interesting player, and I think maybe he can make some impact, but at the same time, it's tough as a rookie. And then, like you said with Hendrickson, I think Hendrickson is a really nice number 2 or number 3 guy on your defensive line. They're paying him, and he's positioned right now to be the number 1 guy in the defensive line. He's going to attract the most attention of this group, and he's going to have to do the most work. Is he able to handle that sort of pressure that he didn't really have in New Orleans when he was playing next to 3 Pro Bowlers, basically?
Yeah, and then finally for a kicker, they have a tier 5 kicker. Austin Siebert has yet to truly impress. He was a 5th rounder out of 2019. They did draft a kicker this year from Florida, Evan McPherson, but again, rookie kickers. Haven't seen you, you're not going to be in a great spot. So as of right now, I'm giving this a tier 5.
That's fair. I had McPherson as my number 2 prospect for kickers, but at the same time, you take that with a grain of salt. We'll see what happens as he comes into the league.
Yeah, so their defense ended up as 25th in the league, so they get 5.29 wins for offense, 1.45 wins for defense. They lose 0.8 of a win for their head coach. Don't get any wins for the kicker. So their total is 5.94 wins this season. So just under a 6-win team, which is 25th in the NFL. And I do think that's right. They've made some strides. They've gotten better. But Their defense is still looking rough. I do like their coverage unit better, but it's still not like a top of the league coverage unit. And I think that they do a lot solid, but they don't really do a lot great right now outside of maybe the quarterback position and maybe the receiver position. So it's a work in progress still for the Bengals, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I said, I think this is kind of building forward. They have to hit that next level and continue to stride and just be a little more competitive this year. Now the question is, they went from what, 2-14 to 4-11-1. Now with a season like oh crap, I'm bad at math. 6-11, is that what it is now?
Yes.
Yeah, 6-11. Is that enough to save Zach Taylor's job? Is that enough to please the front office and say the Bengals are moving in the right direction? It could be, but I still think that they have some holes that they need to clean up, particularly on the offensive and defensive line. And also, like you said, that linebacker group is just, it can be beat very easily by running the ball on this team. So we'll see what happens with the Bengals. I think they're heading in the right direction, but I still think that they're a beatable team.